Hello, and welcome back to my Ratropolis guide series here on YouTube. This is episode number 4, or is this 5? I think. This is number 5, I believe. This will be the video on skills. Yeah. If you haven't seen the previous episodes, I would recommend checking them out. You'll pick up some good tips, as well as you can see the rankings and how I feel about all of the other card types. This is the last in the card review video series. After this video, I will probably do a look at all of the advisors and maybe the enemies, and then I'll do a Wave 120 tips and tricks video, and then I will most likely move into playing the game in a Let's Play sort of format. Yeah. Thank you for the support on the previous videos. I do really appreciate you guys checking these videos out. Without any further ado, I'll do the Who Am I? Hello, my name is Voix. I'm a Twitch streamer, twitch.tv/Voix64. I play roguelikes, a lot of card games, things of that nature. Playing Darkest Dungeon right now. I've played Slay the Spire and Ratropolis in the past. All that out of the way, let's get started. This is the episode on skills. In the past, on all of the other cards, I've had a lot of caveats and things to say about them. Skills are extremely straightforward. The only thing that you need to know about skills is that, let me find one of them, cards like Bomb, anything like this, they do friendly fire. If you put a bomb in the wrong position, you will end up killing your own unit. That out of the way, let's begin with Honey. Honey is a 5-cost, 1 population labor card, rare rarity, after 30 seconds, +2 card hoard. Upgrades to 8 cost and 3 card hoard. I don't take Honey very often. Card hoard is strong. I definitely undervalue card hoard, as you're going to find out in my reviews of all of these cards that have card hoard. But I don't think that if you have the population, this card is okay, I guess. But typically, I search for other answers as to how am I going to draw cards than card hoard. Namely, steal and assistance, which we'll see down the line. Next up is Tan. This is 80 gold, epic rarity for the next 10 seconds, +1 card hoard for each enemy killed. Upgrades to +2 card hoard, 120 gold. This card was apparently really strong. This card got nerfed. It used to be for the next 15 seconds. They knocked it down to 10. I can see the use case, right? If you stack this up enough times, you play it a bunch of times, you get a lot of card hoard. However, like I just said about Honey, I don't really value card hoard very highly. I search for other ways to draw cards than through this effect. If I didn't explain it with Honey, but card hoard, I think I explained this in the basics video, but card hoard essentially means that when you redraw, you will draw extra cards up to the amount that you have card hoarded. So a little number appears above the redraw pile, you will draw extra cards equal to that number. So if you have 3, you'll draw 8 on your next turn. If you have 6, you'll draw an extra 5 up to 10, which is the hand limit. And then on the turn after that, you'll draw 1. Work. 21 gold. Blue, aka rare rarity. For the next 15 seconds, accelerate production time of selected building by 2 times. Upgrades to 3 times. Work is one of the strongest skills. It is extremely, extremely strong for a few reasons. One of which is that if you combo this with Steal, which I'm going to talk about a lot with skills, a lot of the time that I talk about skills, I'm going to have to talk about Steal, because a main thing that I do for consistent endgame, like 120 clears, is going to be Steal infiniting. And the reason that it's so important with work is that if you have a market, you have steal and you have work. So what you can do is you can play work as many times as you want. And through playing work as many times as you want with steal, you can infinitely select cards from the market. The work does add up. So if you play this multiple times on a building, it gets faster and faster. If you play this a certain number, like I think around 5 or 6 times on a single building, the building will finish its production almost instantly. And while you're doing that, you can use this on a market to search for any card you want. You can use this on a smithy to upgrade all of your cards, on a tavern for infinite duplications. The possibilities are endless, but the main application is using this on a market to find your perfect 10 cards. However, it is slightly worse. There is a card that is a little better than work for this case, and that is Labor Command. Labor Command is 74 gold, legendary. For the next 10 seconds, accelerate production time of all buildings built in the city by 2 times, upgrades to next 15 seconds. This is one of the most crucial cards to what I plan to do. Though one of the things that I should note is that production time is considered for watchtowers. I mentioned in the last video I use watchtowers to hold down wave 30 to 60. For Nightmare Mode, one of the Nightmare Mode modifiers makes your buildings makes your defensive buildings 500% more effective. And if you use Labor Command, you can just put a watchtower at each wall, and the watchtowers will shoot unbelievably fast, extremely high damage arrows. They will hold your walls for you for free for about 30 waves, and then you need to have a plan beyond that typically, because they'll start just insta-killing your walls with ranged units. But yeah, everything I just said about work is the same for Labor Command, except you don't have to target it. It hits every building in the colony. It's really strong. It's one of the most important cards, in my opinion, for clearing wave 120. Festival. 27 gold, epic rarity. For the next 10 seconds, reduce the duration of labor effects 2 times faster. Essentially what this means is that labor effects happen twice as fast, upgrades to 3 times as fast. If you have a lot of labor cards, if your population plan is through breed, if your economy plan is through fruit or other such labor cards, I would suggest picking up Festival if it's offered to you. Otherwise, there's no reason. This is a common theme that I have said. Essentially, this card is good if you have labor, and if you don't have labor, it's bad. The same thing as Alter, more or less. Attack, 46 cost, rare rarity. For 6 seconds, deal 2 damage to enemies each time you click. This card is the skill version of Rough Work. By the way, upgrade to 3 damage. Rough Work is the economic card I covered where you have to click it to generate money. However, Attack lets you click to deal damage. This card is strong if you're trying to make a skill-focused deck, because you can pick this up pretty early and it can let you hold waves with just yourself. However, if you don't have some sort of damage scaling plan, you're going to really hate using Attack in waves 10 through 20, because it takes like 18 clicks to kill monsters, and it takes like 200 clicks to kill bosses. I know, I've done it. But there's a lot of ways to buff this card's damage, which will be shown in the future. We already saw one in the building called Agate. Thorn Fence, 110 cost, legendary card. For the next 10 seconds, selected defensive wall takes reduced damage by 5, minimum of 1, and reflects 5 damage to attackers. Upgrades to 8 damage reflected and 8 damage reduced. If you stack Thorn Fence on a wall, you can make it so that every enemy will only ever do 1 damage to it. This has many practical uses. However, the most important one is for comboing. If you're going to use Longbow Rat with a 1 wall away sort of strategy, you're going to want Thorn Fence or the next card, Reinforce, to tank for your longbows. Outside of that, like if you have a strong military presence at your outer wall, you have a lot of beefy frontline dudes, you don't need Thorn Fence. Next up is Reinforce. 54 gold, epic rarity, plus 40 HP to the selected defensive wall, upgrades to 60 HP. I think this card is better than Thorn Fence, but they fill a very similar role of letting you beef up your walls. I like Reinforce. I would take it for most every case. This card's really strong. It's good to just upgrade your walls. Like once you have, but the one thing is you want to only start using this when you have reached as far as you're going to expand. Once you know that you have reached the end, you're going to want to stop, and like that's when you're going to want to pick up Reinforce. Alternatively, I have seen other people who play this game, when they pick up Reinforce, they just stop expanding and spam upgrades to their walls, which is also viable. However, for me personally, I prefer to take up all of the space. You're going to need all the space you can get for wave 120 clears, and then once you reach the end, upgrade your walls to the max, which is 10k health, and then move on. I'll illustrate through the skills that we'll see in the future how you can use this to upgrade to health cap. Up next is Repair, 27 gold common card. Restore 20% HP to the defensive wall you select, up to 30% on the upgrade. It's okay, right? If you're going for a wave 30 clear, I think that this card is good to use if you're doing a longbow rat heavy reinforce plan, because your walls are going to get slowly whittled down with reinforce. You're going to want to be able to perk them back up. Otherwise, I typically skip this. Where am I in my list? I have a little list on my other monitor. Okay, just making sure I covered all the points I wanted to hit on that. Bomb. 55 gold, epic rarity skill. Set up a bomb that explodes in a 3 area, so 3 space as the buildings use, after 5 seconds, causing 20 AoE damage, upgraded to 30. Bomb is okay. If you have really strong walls, like you have reinforced your walls up very high, it's very easy to let all the enemies stack up on the wall and then hit them all with a bomb. Alternatively, you can combo it with a card I'll cover down the line when we cross it called Shock, which stuns enemies for you. And you can use it in that way. I think that it's pretty good. Like, it's a strong enough plan for a skill defense, but it's not my favorite. Arm. 55 gold, epic rarity, temporarily give +2/+16 to all military cards in your hand, upgrades to +3/+24. This gives you an ephemeral buff of the barracks buff that you get. Arm is really strong. The main thing you need to know about this card is that if you're planning on following a strategy where your end game for Nightmare mode is to cap your unit's health and attack, you need Arm. Otherwise, like, this card is fine, right? It's a pretty big buff. +2/+16 is strong. I would say you're getting value out of this if you're hitting 2 military cards. It's not bad for wave 30 clears. You can make some pretty beefy boys with it. Overall, pretty good. Nourishment. For the next 10 seconds, reduce production time of all buildings by 1 second per each enemy killed. I've talked about this in the last video, or no, 2 videos ago, and the last video. When it comes to bounty, this card has a very similar application to bounty. The upgrade, I believe, is, by 2 seconds. I was wrong. As a legendary, I don't really like it. It's expensive, and I don't think that nourishment is good. You're going to want to fish for labor command, ideally. But if you're in a pinch, you can use it. Hopefully you're going to find a better option for card selection, though, than nourishment, because I don't like making my economy or my production plan based on when enemy waves arrive, basically. Dice. 40 gold, rare, draw 1 to 3 cards, upgraded to 1 to 6 cards. In a very high density skill deck, a lot of the time you just want to be playing skills. You don't really care what they are, and dice is great for that. It replaces itself. Sometimes it draws you a few extra. I have not tested if dice can draw itself. I would never want to use it for that because it's rare. Like, it's random. Sometimes you would just miss and lose. But if you're doing a really thick skill deck, I think that dice is okay. Alchemy. 70 cost, legendary, permanently change all cards into your hand into random cards. The upgrade to this is a little different than you would expect. This lets you play it a second time, is what it says, more or less. So after you play Alchemy the first time, if it's upgraded, you get to play it a second time if you don't like what you got. Alchemy is interesting. This card is pure chaos. You are really throwing caution to the wind if you have this. The big thing to note about Alchemy is that it's on average, as long as you have a stable, like if you're stabilized and you're okay, this card can be used to essentially remove cards from your deck, because Alchemy can transform cards into buildings. So if you turn your hand into a bunch of buildings, you can then clear those buildings out of your deck by just playing them. So if you have a really thick deck that you want to thin out, you can pick up Alchemy. Like, transforming cheeses is almost always going to be good if you already have a better economic plan. Just make sure you don't transform anything important. Higher, 42 gold, rare card, gain 3 random ephemeral military cards, upgraded to 5. I feel the exact same way about this card that I feel about the card Mercenary Guild in the building section. If you have a cursed military plan, you didn't get anything good, pick this up, otherwise pass. Leadership. Legendary, 75 gold for the next 15 seconds, minus 5-second leader ability cooldown for each enemy killed. You're not going to be surprised to hear that I don't like this ability. 8 seconds on the upgrade. This combines two things that I have previously stated that I don't like. Per enemy killed effect, I don't like that because you can't use it between waves, and leader ability cooldown reduction. I don't like that because I don't think the leader abilities are very good. Overall, I hard pass this card almost every time. If you really want to make it work, pick it as the general because his leader ability is the best. Training, 38 gold, epic rarity. Next leader ability will be enhanced by 1 level, upgraded to 2 levels. The only thing that I can really see for training is if you want to do something silly and spam this in an infinite to give yourself a ridiculously high-leveled leader ability. Depending on if there's a leader ability cap, you may be able to use training as the general as a way to cap your unit's attack and health instead of arm. I'd have to test that out. Maybe you can use it in that context. Otherwise, nah, I pass this every time. But that's interesting. I never thought of that until just this moment. Rest. 21 gold, rare card. Discard your hand, minus 10-second leader ability cooldown for each discarded card. Upgraded to 15. If you're, again, you're gonna, I'm starting to sound like a broken record here. If you really want to use this card, use it as the general to spam buffs on your units. Otherwise, pass. There's better ways to do this. Actually, I think this is the best card for leader ability cooldown. I just don't think it's very good because I don't care about leader ability cooldown as any of the characters. And this is not to say that I think that it's absolutely worthless, right? I should make this clear. Your leader abilities are a positive effect. Merchant ability generates you money. Military leader gives you stats. Builder gives you free buildings. The scientist one is probably the only one that's exempt from this. It just gives you a one-time skill use. And then shaman gives you soul, and I can't talk about the navigator yet because I haven't played him. These are positive effects. However, you have to keep in mind that your time is your biggest valuable resource in this game, as well as your card selection. You have to wait for the animation to play on rest to reset your leader ability, and this is a card that isn't a different card in your hand, right? When you're drawing rest, you're not drawing something else. You're not playing a different card. You picked this over something else. So for that reason, I tend to skip these cards just in general because keeping the deck small is important to me. Specialize, 124 gold, legendary card for the next 10 seconds. Duplicate 1 card used next. Duplicated cards are ephemeral, upgraded to 2 cards. This card isn't exactly clear on what it does right out the gate. First of all, I should say this is a very, very strong card. It's an extremely important card. It's very, very good. The only downside is this card is really expensive. 124 gold can really stack up on you if you're not paying attention. What does this card do? You play Specialize, and then you have a 10-second window where the next card you play, you will get a single-use copy of. There are a few really important uses for this. You can duplicate high-priority buildings. Say you have Public Bath, you want to make another one, you don't have a tavern, or it's on cooldown, you can specialize it and you get multiples of it. Where you have a more important use for this is with another skill called Reuse. So this is something that I'll go more in depth on with the Nightmare Mode tips and tricks video. There's a pretty convoluted strategy you can use that I'm going to have trouble really illustrating due to the fact that it's just kind of hard to illustrate without being on a long-term Nightmare Mode run. But what you need to know is that Specialize is really good if you're going for a long-term build, and in short-term, like Wave 30 clears, it's great to duplicate buildings. And I'll talk more about it in the Nightmare Mode video because that's going to be... There's a lot of little things you can do with Specialized, ways you can manipulate which card you play next, things like that I'll talk about. I'll try to get some footage of it, maybe. Steal. This is a 12 cost common card, plus 2 cards, permanently increase redraw cost by 10. Upgrades to 3 cards. You've heard me reference this card in numerous occasions, in the economy video, in the building video, I think I mentioned in the military video as well. This is, in my opinion, the best skill in the game. It's really, 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 really important to most of my plans. Why? It's cheap, first of all. It's 12 cost. It's really, really cheap. That's important. Second of all, This card can draw itself. I hinted at this in other videos, but this is really important to note as many times as I need to. Steel can draw itself. So what this means is if you have all of your cards in your hand, say you have 8 cards in your deck total. This isn't an uncommon number to be at because the 7 is, I think, what you start at now. Maybe it's 8, I don't know, doesn't matter. So you have 8 cards in your deck. You draw 7 of them because you have the silent, say that. And you have steel in your hand. If you play steel with 7 cards in hand and 1 card in the draw pile, 0 cards in your discard pile, steel will play, it'll get discarded, and then its effect takes place. It draws 2. You draw whatever card was in your draw pile, and you draw steel again, allowing you to completely bypass the redraw timer, the redraw cost. The increases redraw cost doesn't matter because steel bypasses it. Now, you have to be very careful because if you add cards one at a time while you have steel, so say you have 5 cards and steel is one of them, you add a card to the deck, you draw it with steel, you now have 6 cards in hand. Do that again, you have 7 cards in hand. Do that again, you have 8 cards in hand. Do that again, but oops, you accidentally played one too many cards and steel didn't draw itself. You drew the 2 other cards. Now you have a extremely high redraw cost and no way to fix your infinite. You have a bit of a problem. There are other cards that can help you beat this problem. It's not easy to get to the infinite out the gate, but once you pick up steel, you want to try to remove down to enough where you can draw your whole deck and then just add cards continuously. I had a lot to say about steel, but it's a really, really important card. It's really strong. I've tried to replicate it in other cards, and they're all not quite right. Next up is Throw. 26 costs, rare card. Discard your hand, deal 30 damage for each discarded card, upgrades to 45 damage. This is the strongest single target nuke in the game, for sure. I don't think that there is any card that will do more damage than Throw. If you throw with a full hand of 5 cards, this will do 150 damage for 26 gold. Really strong for killing bosses. If you add in some damage multipliers, this will one-shot most bosses for you. One thing to note is that 90% of the time that I'm playing skill decks, I am running a Steel Infinite. Throw, as I illustrated before, will mess up your Infinite, so for that reason I often skip it. Because if you're running a Steel Infinite, you don't need this card. There are a lot of better ways to just spam out damage. Forge. 59 gold, epic rarity, plus 2 cards, temporarily upgrade the drawn cards. You may look at Forge, hang on, upgrades to plus 3 cards, by the way. You may look at Forge and you may say, oh, this is the same card as Steel. Why do you value Steel so highly and you're about to talk shit about Forge? First of all, Forge is fine. This card is good if you're not trying to do some cheesy stuff with Steel. You can use it to cheat out upgrades on buildings. Like you can just keep redrawing until you can draw a building off of this and get a level 2 building for free and help your economy. It's good, but it does not redraw itself. This is really important to note. It's like, sometimes it does though. This is really finicky. I've tried to figure out exactly how it works. My understanding is that if there is a card in your discard pile and you play Forge, Forge will then discard and then the effect takes place. However, if there are no cards in your discard pile and there are cards in your draw pile, like you have 1 card in your draw pile in the same situation I've been talking about with Steel and no cards in your discard pile, you play Forge, Forge will not draw itself in that case. But it's super finicky. There's like ways you can mess with it where like you hover over a card in your hand while playing it. It's really hard to use. Like it doesn't always work and it's super inconsistent. So for the most part, I skip Forge for the infinite side of things. However, for cheating out upgrades on buildings, if you're just trying to clear some wave 30s, it's fine. Like it's solid. Upgrading cards is strong. Blessing. 125 cost, legendary. For the next 10 seconds, drawn cards will be temporarily upgraded. Upgrades to 15 seconds, 188 gold. If you have all the money in the world, I think that this card is fine. If you're playing like a deck that has a ton of draw, like you have Forge, Steel, a bunch of assistants, just a ton of ways to draw cards, I think that Blessing is cool. You can make a decent argument towards playing a deck that has a lot of cards in it and you just have heavy amounts of draw. I think that that's fine, honestly. And if you're doing that and you have a good enough money plan, Blessing will be fine. You'll get some free upgrades. It's solid. But if you don't have a good money plan, you can't take this. It's expensive. It costs you 125 gold. Sometimes I write off the costs, but 125 gold is nothing to sneeze at. That is a lot of money to spend on this. You can also, the other thing to note is that you can combo this with Relic, the economic card, to make a hacky economy. I don't know, it's inconsistent. I don't really like it, but you could do it in theory. Overturn, 42 gold, rare rarity, discard your hand, +1 card for each discarded card, up to +2. This card will let you draw to 10, right? It's pretty good for that. You can use it to set yourself up on an infinite if you upgrade it, but upgrades are at a premium, and I don't particularly like it for that. The thing about this is there's an important thing to note, which is I don't know if this can draw itself. I've never actually tried. However, I'll try it in the future, more or less. Stay tuned. I'll let you know. One other thing to note is that if you have a bunch of barns, this is a lot of free money. If you're discarding 5 cards, and you're drawing 5 cards, you basically get to redraw for free. I don't really like it for that though, because then you're waiting on the redraw time and it's a whole thing. Overall, it's something that I preach a lot now, is you have to spend time watching animations of cards redrawing, and that's costing you seconds over the course of a run. So any way that you can cut that out is important, and I think that Overturn is the opposite of that. Assistance, 13 cost, common card, +3 cards if you used a skill card immediately prior. What this means is that if the last card you played was a skill, draw 3 cards. It's good. If you are having trouble getting your steel infinite off the ground, you're not getting enough removals, you can pick one of these up. Your infinite, instead of being, you can play 2 cards at a time and one of them has to be steel, you can now play 5 cards at a time and you have to play steel and assistance. One thing to say is that it's kind of hard to do this. Like, if you're not extremely focused, it's very easy to play cards in the wrong order and mess yourself up if you're trying to go real fast. So make sure you're ready for that, make sure you're aware of that, but you can use steel and assistance together to draw a lot of cards in a turn. And assistance is similar to Forge in that it's finicky with when it will draw itself, right? And, you know, it's kind of messy. You can do it though, as long as you have another skill to play on alongside it. Emergency. 80 gold, epic rarity. Draw cards until you have 6 in hand, +10 seconds to the redraw cooldown. Upgrades to 120 cost, draw till you have 9. Emergency, I just recently confirmed this for myself. This card will draw itself. So you can use this as a scuffed infinite if somehow you can find emergency but can't find steel. Yeah, it's okay for that. The big thing to note about that if you're using it in an infinite is you need to have a strong economy. This card is expensive. You're going to want to use it in a 9-card infinite. You really can't make it work with 6 cards. It's not really worth it. But you can make it work if you upgrade it to 9 cards. Other than that, like, outside of using it for wacky infinites, like, I feel like these tips have been a lot of wacky infinite things you can do. In a normal circumstance, emergency essentially lets you skip the redraw time, right? You're paying 80 gold to redraw. You play all the cards out in your hand, and then you get to play emergency and redraw 6 new cards. For that, I think it's okay, but I wouldn't really use it, I don't think. It's really expensive, but eventually it will be, like, at 120 cost, it will be cheaper than redrawing pretty soon, so you can use it for that use, and it's not bad. You may notice that a lot of skills are draw cards. That's kind of a theme, but there's also just a ton of skills. You can see there's 8 pages to go through. I didn't mention it in this video at the start, but I'll mention it now if you're still with me. I haven't played the Navigator yet, so I don't know what his skills do, but I'll give my opinion on them if I have them unlocked. I'm going to speed it up a little bit because we're coming up on 30 minutes and we're at page 3. So I'm going to become a little concise with cards that I don't really have a ton to say about, such as tracking. 29 gold, rare rarity, draw 3 skill cards from the card bag. Upgrades to 44 gold, and draw all cards, skill cards from the card bag. It's fine. Like I said with basically every other card draw card, it's fine. I can tell you for certain this card cannot draw itself because it draws you all the skills in the card bag, but this can get your infinite off the ground if you're going for one, or if you're just playing heavy skills, you can use this to draw your skills. If you're doing... One thing that's going to be a common theme is that if you're doing a heavy skill deck, you're going to just want a lot of card draw if you're not going for a steel infinite of some sort. Just put in as many card draw cards as you can. There's no downside. Make sure you have economics to support them, though. Syringe, 40 gold, legendary, single use, increase HP of selected military unit by 100. I think there's 2 different events that give you these. They're fun. I would suggest taking them because they increase the size of your units, and that's goofy. Other than that, though, it's fine, right? Take this. Event cards are typically good. Upgrades to 150 health, but it does not increase the amount of size they gain, unfortunately, which is the most important stat. All I care about with this card is making a unit comically large. 52 gold on Ignite. Rare card. Burns the target area of 4 spaces for 3 damage per second for 8 seconds, is what this says. Upgraded to 5 damage per second. It's okay. It's basically the same card as Bomb. Use it up against a wall to burn a bunch of enemies that are hitting your wall. Use it in combination with Shock. Otherwise, pass it. Watch out for friendly fire. Focus Fire, 65 cost, epic rarity. For the next 15 seconds, 50% increased damage to all defensive buildings. Upgraded to 75%. I don't like this card particularly. The main reason is that this is an additive stacking and not a multiplicative stacking. I don't know if that's the same for everything, but yeah, it's gonna be not really worth your time. I think that there's better ways to handle yourself than Focus Fire. In Nightmare mode, I haven't really tried it for Nightmare mode, maybe, but you're gonna want a different plan than this, I think, in the long term. But maybe you can make it work with just Watchtowers. I feel like you would get sniped though, and then you're really leaving it up to chance if you're relying on Focus Fire, because if one of your Watchtowers gets sniped, you're just gonna lose. Shock, 35 gold, rare card, deals 15 damage to the target, enemy, and any nearby enemies, upgraded to 23. There's 2 things to note that this card doesn't tell you. It stuns enemies when you play it, and it will chain to your own guys. This skill will hit your own units if they're close. You gotta watch out for that. I don't know what the maximum number of bounces is. It's really hard to tell. This is my favorite damage card, though. It's really nice. You stack a bunch of damage, it'll wipe out entire waves in seconds. And it has the nice stun if they don't die. Great card. Like, highly recommend if you're going skills, you want to look for this aggressively. Fitness is one of the new cards, actually. 45 gold, 3 labor, rarity, labor after 60 seconds plus 12 HP to target group. Upgraded to 18 HP. Card seems good. I haven't played with it, so I don't have more to say to it than that. Card seems good though. If it's a permanent health upgrade, like if it's max HP, which I assume it is, any way to give yourself more max HP sounds incredible. Like, this sounds really good, but it is 3 population, which is a little tough. Immigration is also new. 81 gold, rarity, plus 4 Radizen when played, permanently decrease Radizen gain by 1, upgraded to 6. Thanks to a comment I got on the, I think it was the economic cards episode, I now know on how, I now have an idea of how this upgrade is going to work. If you upgrade this at 2, you're probably going to get +1. You're going to get 50% of the current value of the card. Shout out to Maria. I don't remember your last name. I'm very sorry, but shout out to you for that information. I appreciate it. Yeah. This card is good. It's population gain. Make sure you have a way to remove it though. I haven't played with it, so I'm not 100% on that, but I believe it. Treasure Fleet, 50 gold, 7 population, legendary card, ephemeral, labor after 180 seconds, get a legendary treasure chest. Upgraded to, single use instead of ephemeral, and 120 seconds. I haven't played this card, it's also one of the new ones. This sounds really good. Getting an extra boss chest sounds incredible. Make sure you have the 7 population to spend on this, but I think that this is really good, especially as a single use. I assume that this is from an event or something because it's ephemeral and it's single use. I have to assume that this is from an event. But if you can get an upgrade off on this and then just duplicate this, you can make some crazy shit happen. Oh, hey, this is a way to get the Slayer's achievement too, because this would, in theory, this gives you infinite access to advisor selections. Well, I'm really excited for this card. I think there's a lot of bullshit you can do with this. I'm going to mess with this a lot when I can figure out how to get it. March. 16 gold, common, for the next 15 seconds plus 100% movement speed to all military units. I talked about this a little bit in the military card section. Unlike Cobbler Shop, I think this card is bad. Cobbler Shop is good because you can use it as a passive permanent bonus. March is bad because it takes up a card slot in your deck. Yeah, Military card. Use this with Duckling Rider. You can do some fun stuff if you combo this with Steel and Duckling Rider. Otherwise, hard pass. But making a really fast Duckling Rider is something you should do because it's really fun. I don't know if I showed it. It goes up to 150%. Battlecry. 22 cost, common rarity for the next 15 seconds, +2 attack to target wall. I'm going to replace the word group with wall there. Upgrades to +3. This card just got nerfed on Friday, which was like 3 days ago now. 2 days ago now, I don't know what day it is anymore. It's really, really strong. You play this even without an infinite if you're just spamming redraw in the early game. This card makes your units survive a lot longer. If you play this like 3 times on a wall within the first 20 waves, like anytime you can play this about 3 times on a wall with a good number of guards, and by a good number I mean like between 5 and 10, enemies won't even reach the wall. They'll get killed before they even get there. Although post-nerf this is a little worse, right? It lost 1 attack. I don't know how big of an impact that's going to make, but I would still highly suggest you pick this up if you're sleeping on this card. It's really, really strong. I have used this card and guards and shield rat as the 3 things I used to make it through wave 30 as my offensive plan. Obviously I had economics to allow me to spam redraws. Ambush. 12 cost, common card, 40 damage to chosen enemy, upgraded to 60 damage. Really good if you want to just target down some of the early bosses. It's really cheap to buy. This card costs like 8 gold from the shop. I'm not against picking this up and just popping the early bosses. Something to note is that it's super finicky with targeting, but yeah, it's solid. It can help you pick off some priority units in the wave 10 to 20 segment as well. You can just pop some of the rangers that are going to give you trouble. Solid. First aid. Rare card, 32 cost, restores 40 health to all units on chosen defensive wall, upgraded to 60 health. This is okay, right? It's very similar to how I feel about every other healing card in this game. It saves you money because it heals your units. I don't know if I've ever actually picked this card though, if I'm being honest with you. I typically just pick up Aid Station when I see it, or I just skip because the card slot is kind of hard. But if you have the room in your deck, it's not bad to take this. Call to Arms, 62 gold, epic rarity. Add to your hand as many ephemeral militia cards as there are remaining Ratizans. This one's real weird. Like, this is a very strange card. This can only give you up to 10. It doesn't go beyond the maximum hand size. It upgrades them to level 2 when you upgrade this card. I've used this a few times, and every time I use it, I just go, wow, this is kind of strange. Yeah, so you basically hold this card as an emergency card. If you're getting run over, you hit Call to Arms, you drop 10 militia on the wall that's getting smacked, and hope it saves you. It's good. The militia cards are free. It doesn't say that on the card, but the cards are free. So you get a bunch of free militia if you have population open. It's okay. That's all I can really say. I don't really have anything interesting to add to it. Airstrike. 75 gold, epic rarity, drop a rock in a 1 AoE, dealing 20 damage. I don't like this card. Upgrades to 30 damage. I never take it. It's fine. Like, if you can't find a better skill card, take this. Otherwise, just take Bomb. Bomb's a lot better, bigger AoE. It has a lot less of a cast time than Bomb, because Bomb has that 3-second fuse, but I'd rather use Bomb and time it that way, because it still has a cast time, so it's kind of awkward. Spirit Chain. 15 gold, rare card for the next 10 seconds, allows the target group to share damage, upgraded to 15 seconds. Every time I use this card, I've used this like 2 or 3 times now, every time I've used this card, it just kills your backline. If you're holding on to guards in the late game, this is just going to kill all your guards. I keep guards around and plan to just keep them at low HP and buff their attack temporarily, and let the frontline tank for them. This card shares damage with them, they get killed. I would not recommend it, but if you're doing a heavy melee plan, you can maybe make it work with something like Vampirism. It really mitigates the damage for things like that, so maybe in that case. Vines. 32 gold common card, creates vines lasting for 10 seconds that slow movement speed by 60% within 4 area, upgrades to 15. I have only taken vines once or twice. It's okay. I think that you can do some funky stuff with this and more or less buy yourself a ton of time because it slows the enemies down, but I haven't really tried it because it seems like a lot of work to set up for a very minor upgrade, like outcome, but you know, combo this with some good range units. You can buy them a lot of time. Maybe you can use it like that. I don't know. The thing that I don't like about this really is it requires you to be very attentive. Your focus is going to be split around a lot of places in the colony, and often, like, if you lapse for even a second, you're going to get run over, and I don't like putting that kind of pressure on myself personally. But in theory, there's something you can do with this if you're like pausing and being super diligent. Demolition, 15 cost, rare card, converts target building to an ephemeral building card that is shuffled into your hand, upgrades to level 2 when you upgrade this. So what you do with this card is you target a building that you have placed down, it adds it to your hand as a free ephemeral building. Two things you can do with this. You can use this to clear up buildings you no longer need if you're going for a long-term 120 wave clear. You can draw this or use this to pull a building back that you don't want anymore, remove it with Monastery, or just redraw. Second thing you can do with this, you can upgrade this, and then you can use it to upgrade every building in your colony. This card is great. I would highly recommend taking it in almost every circumstance. Egg. 200 cost, 5 population, legendary single use. This is an event card. Labor, after 120 seconds, get egg level 2. Egg level 2 is labor, get D-Rex when egg level 2 survives for 120 seconds. After 240 seconds, you get the big duck. I take egg because it's fun. You just throw this down in a building space. It doesn't take up a building space. It goes on top of your other buildings. It doesn't hurt you in any way. Just throw this down next to your town hall and get a D-Rex. If it's going to cripple you, like if you get this super early and you don't have the 5 pop to spare, just pass. It's fun. Get a big duck. 70 gold is the cost of this card called Visit. Epic rarity, reduce target building's production time by 50 seconds, 30 seconds increased on the next leader ability, upgraded to 75% when you upgrade it. Visit fills the very same niche that Work does. You can use this in place of Work, combo it with a Market, give yourself infinite card selection, find labor command. If you're using this in a bigger deck, just use this on whatever building you want to produce faster. It's a really strong card. If you can't find Work, use this instead to select until you get labor command and infinites. Breed, 55 gold, 2 population, rare rarity, labor after 60 seconds, +1 Radizen, upgrades to +2. Labor is great, population gen is great. Make sure you have 2 population free, start playing breed, your population will increase exponentially very quickly. I like it. Highly recommend picking this up when it's offered. 50 gold is the cost of extension. Legendary, ephemeral, upgrade selected building. Upgrade is making it single use. Extension is another event card. You generate it from Builders Guild or from some events. It's good. There's nothing to say about it. Upgrade cool buildings. Upgrade buildings that give a good impact, right? Make sure you're upgrading important buildings that you get a good benefit from upgrading. Not necessarily markets, because you should have permanent, like, speed. You should have infinite card selection, ideally. But if you don't, this is a way to mitigate things like that, or just upgrade gold generation buildings like barns. It's good. I think you can also use this on walls. Rally, 20 gold, common card, converts target groups units into free ephemeral cards. Upgrading this makes it give them +1/+2. Rally is really good. Combo this with the general ability. You can give your units infinite scaling on their health and attack. Make sure you upgrade this if you're going to keep it for the long term. The other important thing to note is that using this card heals your units. So you use this on a wall, it brings all the units back to your hand, they keep all the buffs they have, you replay them, they're played back at full health. Their health state is not taken into account when they are played, or like when they're brought back, it just gets reset to full. So with that being said, you can use this in the early game to keep some units alive. Research, 100 cost, 6 population, legendary card, labor. After 60 seconds, upgrade a random card. The upgrade on this upgrades 2 random cards. There's 2 things I really want to note about this card. One is that it seems kind of buggy with the upgrade 2 random cards. I've had a few cases where I've never actually seen this upgrade 2 random cards when it upgrades. I've only ever seen it upgrade 1. The other thing to note is that there are cards in this game that I will not be covering. Cards that are called Disturb cards. They're basically curses, things like Rebels, Floods, the Purificate cards that you get from events, and they do nothing essentially or actively harm you. Research can upgrade those cards. Those cards can be upgraded. Make sure that when research is finishing, you don't have anything that you don't want upgraded in your deck. Burst. Oh no, sorry, I skipped. Reuse. 85 gold, epic rarity. For the next 10 seconds, your next skill card is played 2 times, upgrades to 3 times. This card is super important. If you're going for a 120 clear, you need this card. I'll talk more in depth about it on the Wave 120 Nightmare Mode clear, but if you're doing a skill-based deck, you're going to want this. This card is really strong. Letting you play multiple skills in a single time frame is very good. I would recommend picking this up for almost every single case. If you're playing skills, you want this. If you're not playing skills, don't take this. This is how I feel about reuse. Burst, 63 gold, rare card. For the next 15 seconds, skill card damage is increased by 100%, upgraded to 150%. Burst is really good if your plan is to kill the enemies with skills, right? If you're having a military plan, you don't have any damage skills, don't take this, or you just have like a damage skill in the mix for the fun of it, don't take this. Like if you're just using ambush to pick units off, for example. However, if you're planning to kill enemies entirely with skills, you're going to need burst. You want to reuse, then burst. Give yourself a big damage boost on the skills, so you're not clicking attack 100 times to kill a single enemy. But overall, yeah, it's good. Keep. This is a new card. 14 gold, common rarity. Discard a random card for +2 card hoard. I'm assuming the upgrade is +3 card hoard. Yeah. It seems okay. As I said earlier, I don't particularly care for card hoard, so I don't particularly think this is great, but it may be good early on to help you boost your economy, right? Get you out of the first 10 waves. I'll definitely try it out. I'm gonna take a drink of water. I've been talking for 46 minutes now. Only this video is long. All right. Next up is Vampirism. 68 gold, epic rarity. For the next 15 seconds, 30% lifesteal to target group's melee units, upgraded to 45%. This is good. I think there is theoretically some things you can combo this with that I will talk about when we get to them in the next 2 pages. That will be particularly good. However, you can put this on a big squad of melee units and they will live through the wave. I think this is the best healing card in the game for that reason. Instead of healing outside of the wave, they heal through the wave consistently while you play this. If you stack this up a few times, as long as your units are hitting and not getting one shot, they will survive almost any hit. It's really strong for that. Soul Calling. 22 gold, rare rarity. For the next 10 seconds, multiply soul produced by 2 times. Upgrades to 15 seconds. You're not going to be surprised if you've seen the other videos, but I don't really care for this card. It's great, right? It's really, really strong if you're going for a soul build. However, I never go for soul builds because I don't like them. They require a bit more finagling than I care to do. However, I could see this card being good if you are in an infinite. I think that if you're going to want to play soul, you're going to want to have a steel infinite, because then all of the soul cards can just sit in your hand while you're infiniting whatever you want to infinite. And then you can infinite on soul calling and get a really large soul payout. So for that reason, I think that this might be good. Like the soul builds are probably better than I give them credit for. I just don't ever like playing them. Yeah. Enchant. Similarly, it's a soul card. 51 gold, rare rarity. Soul Siphon. Give soul to 3 random Soul Siphon cards in your hand. So what this does is, what does it do? Upgrades to 5 random cards. This card essentially holds soul for other cards, right? So you stack up soul on this card and 3 other cards. You play a card, spend its soul, and then you can play enchant and refill its soul the next time you draw it. Similarly, I think this soul cards are particularly good in infinites, and I don't really like them as skills outside of that case. It seems okay, basically, is all I'm going to say about it. But I don't have big experience with soul cards. Fire Spirit, 125, legendary, Soul Siphon card. For the next 15 seconds, target group deals 100% of the soul damage when attacked by a melee enemy. I think that you could combo this with Vampirism. This is the card I was talking about on the last page. You can maybe combo this with Vampirism to make some real beefy units. You're going to want to combo this with something like Guardian or Shield Rat or someone real thick that you're letting tank on the front line, and it really ups their damage. I've never really used it outside of, like, I think once or twice I tried it out, and I wasn't too interested in it. The main thing that I don't like is that it only hits melee units. So your melee boys are gonna have a lot of trouble with ranged units anyway. They don't really have much trouble with melee units. Most of them should die by the time they get there. But I think this card can be fun. It's a way to make the soul plan work. If you're going for a full soul plan, there's not a whole lot of cards that do soul that give you damage. So you need to make a hybrid of like military cards with some soul cards to buff them up, as well as the only soul damage card, which we will talk about when we get. Poison Fog, 108 cost, epic rarity. For the next 10 seconds, units within an area of 4 receive 50% increased damage, upgraded to 75% increased damage. I don't know. I don't really take this. I think that the big problem is this is going to hit your own units. Your own units are going to get killed by this pretty easily. If you can maybe make this work with, like, if you just set a... Oh, you can combo this with high skill damage, I guess. This is good for making skill damage work if you can't find burst, actually, because it doesn't necessarily have to be used in the context of military units. You could also use it just like let the enemy stack up against a fortified wall while your longbow rats plink away at them, right? Okay, I can see it for that reason, but typically I pass this card when I see it. But I haven't been playing many skill builds lately, I will be honest. Storm Spirit, 66 gold, rare rarity, Soul Siphon. For the next 15 seconds, target group's attack speed is increased by 100% of soul, upgraded to 150% of soul. There's one big problem I have with this card. I have no idea what that number means. I don't have any idea what the increased attack speed is going to really look like, so I have no idea how to feel about this card in context. However, I think that this is the card I mentioned when I talked about Musketeer 2 videos ago. Theoretically, I've been told that you can combo this with Musketeer to basically nullify his reload speed, as long as you have a way to keep it up per wave. Maybe it's okay for that. Like, it doesn't seem like you would need a whole lot for that. You can also combo this with slingers, right? You can stack up a bunch and then make your slingers attack super fast, and then they outscale guards for that. They'll be spamming stuns as well. There's a lot of practical applications for this in the deck. I don't think you need to have a soul-focused deck to make this work. It seems okay. If there were a soul card I was going to take, I would take this because it seems like fun to combo with melee units. Finally, Release, 74 gold, rare rarity, Soul Siphon. Release gathers soul in 3 area, deal 100% of soul as AoE damage, 150% on the upgrade. This is your only soul-based skill. If you're going to build around this, you're going to need a lot of soul cards to go. You're going to need some cards to go with it. You're going to need Enchant, and you're going to need Soul Calling. I don't know. I could see it, right? If you want to make a skill-based deck, you can make it work with this, but I would rather have Shock, honestly. But it seems like fun. If you want to make some real big soul explosions happen, you can do things like that with Release. I have never really played with it in extensive, and maybe over the course of this series that I'm going to do, I will change my tone on Soul Siphon cards. However, as it sits right now, I don't really like them. Maybe I'll look back in like 3 months and go, man, that was a stupid opinion. Finally, Expedition I have unlocked. I'm not going to tell you anything about this card because I haven't played with quest cards yet. I have no idea how strong they are. However, I like them. And then there's 4 cards I have not yet unlocked. I'll talk about those when I unlock them. And that's it. This is the end of the card section of my Ratropolis series. If you've made it through all of these videos, thank you so much. Like, I cannot begin to express my gratitude. I really appreciate you watching these if you're hearing me right now. I've been putting a bit of work into these, and I hope that you enjoy them. They're not exactly the most organized. I just kind of open up the book and start going, right? But I'm doing my best. I'm not doing any big edits or anything like that. I'm not putting any like clips of combat action with these cards, showing them in motion, but the main reason for that is that that would add like a lot of time to the production time of these videos, and I want to get these out relatively quickly. But yeah, thank you for watching. I really appreciate it. Leave a like if you liked. Drop me a comment down below if you care to. Feel free to come over to my stream or in the Discord and hit me up with any questions you got, or just leave them in a comment below. I'll get back to you whenever I see it. Thanks for watching again, and I hope you have a great day. Farewell.